The devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal. He was in a bind because he was way behind and looking to make a deal. Charlie Daniels.
We have all desired something. Fame, wealth, love, property, power. But how far would you go to get it? You might sacrifice your time, your money, your possessions, or even your health to obtain the object you desire. But would you give even more? Would you sell your soul? Tonight, we make a deal with the devil on this bluesy episode of Snipe Hunt.
Long time ago, me and my brother Gary here, we was hitchhiking down a long and lonesome road when all of a sudden there shined a shiny demon in the middle of the road, and he said,
"Make the best podcast in the world, or I'll eat your soul."
So we looked at each other and we said, okay, and recorded the first thing that came to our heads, and it just so happened to be the best spot in the world. It was the best spot in the world.
And the peculiar thing is this, my friends. The podcast we made on that fateful night, it wasn't anything like this pod.
This is just a tribute.
And I want you to...
All right, now that we lost half our listeners, you are listening to Snipe Hunt, your frightening folklore podcast, and I am your host, Darren Young.
And I am your cringy host, Gary Clemenstein. And today we are talking about demonic pacts, deals made with the devil. We will be exploring the concept, go through the history of it, and out some famous pacts allegedly formed, and whether or not people today sell their soul.
Yes, and we're still recording remotely, and I think Gary got like a new PC cooler, and it's like super loud. So if you hear
that's thanks to your brother.
Even after I know, he's big on the PC builds right now. But so if you hear that in the background after post production, it's not my fault.
Truth be known, he probably installed it incorrectly. I should have never let him touch my computer.
He wouldn't install it. It's just a CPU cooler, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or did you do like all the fans?
He did all the fans.
Oh, yeah.
That's why my RGBs no longer work right.
RGB's overrated.
That is true, but if you're going to buy them, you want them to work correctly.
That's fair. But before we get into today's episode, we have a Patreon update. The very rare. So we all know that the $1 tier gives you access to blooper reel episodes and topic voting, but the illustrious $5 tier didn't get really anything special until now. So if you like our dramatic readings and spooky stories, and if you're a member of the Snipe Expert tier on Patreon, you have exclusive access to our creepypasta readings set to tension-building music. The stories may be fictional, but the terror is real. First one is a story relating to our last episode on tulpas. I read this one. I really like the way it turned out, so check it out if you can. We'll update this one either every month or every 2 months, depending on our schedule, just whenever. Probably not making a big priority now, considering there's only 2 people in there, and they're both my friends, so one being Gary. But with Halloween coming up fast, this is the perfect time to tune in and listen. So yeah, that's pretty much all the house cleaning we have, so let's go ahead and get into it. So although I'm sure most of us are familiar with this concept and has been a tried and true plot device in various pop culture mediums, what exactly is a deal with the devil?
I believe I can tell you, Darren. And
please,
our lovely people. Born out of Christian mythology, a deal with the devil is a pact made between a person and a demon, sometimes a lesser demon, or sometimes Satan himself. The person offers their eternal soul to the demon in exchange for diabolical assistance for gaining wealth, power, fame, or anything else the worldly heart may desire. This is sounding better and better. do we learn how to do this? I'm just joking.
Of course we do. Do you not see the little tabs on the side?
Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah.
There it
Yeah,
is.
you're right. You're right. All right, good deal.
Spoiler alert.
The deal maker either conjures up the demon by conducting a ritual of some kind, or the demon shows up to offer a deal to the struggling human. They then strike a deal, which can either be written or verbal. The written acts were often signed using red ink, something that I've noticed at my job or at school they would never let you do. That might be why.
Yeah, it's so you don't accidentally sell your soul away when you're reading the terms and conditions of iTunes.
The blood of the deal maker or animal blood.
All right, so this is the part where I talk about the history of the subject and save the examples for later. But for this episode, the history and examples are pretty much one and the same. So let's go ahead and establish our timeline. So deals with deities are not new. Almost every single culture that has ever been on the earth has had a religion or a belief in a deity or higher power, and all have made an offering to their gods. This offering included food, drink, or other liquids such as oil, or sacrifices of animals and even humans. This would be done to honor the gods or the dead, and was often done as a kind of pact. They would make an offering to these gods in exchange for the gods' favor, which would improve their lives in some way. Examples included a successful hunt, victory in battle, abundance of food or other resources, and so on and so forth. So if you would consider this a pact, as I do, then making a deal with a deity of some kind is as old as religion itself. As far as making a pact with something seen as evil, the earliest specific instance I could find was the Synod of Elvira. I think it's Synod or Synod. So what is a synod? That's what we're going to call it. I should have looked up pronunciation guides, but I didn't.
I would think synod would be correctly.
Yeah,
surely it wouldn't
right
be synod.
That's the Arkansas pronunciation.
Yeah. A synod is a meeting of a Christian governing or advisory council composed of members of the clergy.
Thank you, definition man. Now, this particular synod, as the name suggests, was held in Elvira in southern Spain, way back in the approximate year of 305 or 306 AD, for the purpose of restoring order and discipline within the Christian church. They adopted 81 canons, which are...
All right, since you said definition, man. A regulation or dogma decreed by a church council.
Thank you. And the one I wanted to highlight was Canon 6, which states...
If someone kills another by sorcery or magic, that person shall not receive communion, even at the time of death, for this action is a form of idolatry. Idolatry. Yeah, okay. All right.
And what is idolatry, definition man?
In Christianity, idolatry is the worship of something other than God.
Thank you. So, not specifically stated, it's heavily implied that one can gain powers by worshiping a supernatural being, which can be a pact. In this instance, A worships B in exchange for the death of C by magic. So it's kind of a stretch, but I just really want to go as far back as possible, and that's what I try to do. But this brings us directly into our first recorded account.
Back in 6th century Sicilia. In the town of Adana, there was an archdeacon named Theophilus.
Yeah.
Theophilus. That sounds all right. Theophilus?
Yeah, it's either Theophilus or Theophilus. Theophilus sounds better.
He was a very pious man and was famous for his devotion and charity. When the local bishop died, Theophilus was unanimously elected to fill the now empty position, who declined the promotion out of humility. A stranger was elected in the position, and Theophilus resumed his duties as treasurer and archdeacon. However, such a refusal was nearly unheard of, and soon rumors and slander spread about our archdeacon, and the new bishop removed Theophilus from his office without investigating or confirming the rumors.
That son of a bitch.
Yeah. Theophilus was greatly affected by these slanders and removal from office, and brooded over his circumstances, trying to find a way to clear his name, but failed. So in his desperation, he visited a necromancer who led Theophilus out at midnight to a crossroads, and then he invoked Satan himself. The demon then offered reinstatement of the priest's position and the clearing of his name, and only wanted one thing in return. His soul. Theophilus agreed and signed the contract with his own blood, for forever forsaking Christ and the Virgin Mary. So apparently he felt just like I did and didn't feel like he had much of a soul anyways. But
yeah, he was like, what could go wrong?
Right. Sure enough, not only was his position reinstated, but he was also given the promotion to bishop, and his name was cleared in the eyes of the people, just as the devil had promised. However, after a while, Theophilus realized his grave mistake, and fear over his mortal soul took him. He fasted for 40 days and nights and prayed all the while. On the 40th night, the Virgin Mary appeared to him and rebuked him for his sin.
Rebuked.
God, dude.
Not rebooked.
Rebuked.
It's rebuked.
Rebuked. Whatever. Theophilus begged for forgiveness and implored her to save him. On the next night, Mary returned and exclaimed that Christ had forgiven him and provided him with the deed to his soul. Theophilus rejoiced. He rejoiced, confessed his sin to the people, and burned the contract. And he died 3 days later. It's my luck.
Yeah, I mean, so at least his soul didn't go to the bad place when he died, ultimately he did kind of escape with like very minimal consequences. Like, yeah, he died, but given the other option of being damned eternally to hell, I'd say he got off pretty good. It's a pretty standard story. Maybe the only thing that makes it somewhat different is that it was a priest that did this. This established a lot of the tropes for later devil deals, like the whole contract and the signing of blood and all that stuff. It also helped develop part of the theology of witchcraft. Conjuration of the devil was not considered a sin at this time. Only the selling of the soul was. So when he was like, oh yeah, he conjured the devil, it's not like that big of a deal. I mean, you could just talk to the devil. We're just talking. It's fine.
Yeah, he's just like everybody else.
He's just a friend, I promise.
Yeah.
No, babe, he's just a friend. So consorting with the devil was later considered a sin with the rise of the Inquisition in the 13th and 14th centuries. And we'll get to a little bit of that later on. So one of the most famous tropes of devil deals is meeting a demon at a crossroads. Why is that definition, man?
Well, there is no clear-cut answer, but it is speculated that it represents a location between worlds. It symbolizes a location where two realms touch, and therefore represents not a place, but something between this veil and the next. Therefore, what better place to meet with a supernatural entity from another realm?
Yeah, in some ancient religions, it was recorded that sacrifices to the Roman god Mercury and the Norse god Odin were performed at crossroads. And crossroads were and are spiritually significant in Hoodoo, Greek, and Brazilian religions and beliefs.
It's Hodo.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do that to you. Sorry.
Isn't Hodo the guy from Game of Thrones?
I don't know. All right, now let's move on to one of the most famous accounts of a pact with those who dwell down below.
Let's do it. The story of Faust is a German legend which launched the concept of the devil deals into the zeitgeist of Christian mythology. It is based on the historical figure Johann Georg Faust, who lived in the 15th and 16th centuries. The real Faust was a man of many talents. He appears in records as a physician, philosopher, alchemist, magician, and astrologer. And I say appears in records, as historians don't really know that much about this figure, although we do know he was often accused as a fraud, and even accused by the church as being in league with the devil. Years after his death, Faust became the subject of many literary works, and his legend was then adapted into Christopher Marlowe's play, The Tragical History of the Life and Death of Dr. Faustus, in 1604. And in Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's play, Faust, which forever associated his name with the devil deals. His fictional story is long enough to be adapted into a 2-part play, so we'll keep it super brief here, and we're going to be going with Ghost's version of the story. Heinrich Faust was a great scholar who mastered all the fields of human knowledge and had become bored and dissatisfied. He then turns to studying magic, wishing to understand the inmost forces of the universe. In this, he fails and despairs. One night, while Faust and his assistant were taking a walk, they are approached by a black dog, who then follows the pair back to Faust's study, where it begins to growl and to grow to a monstrous size. Faust then casts a spell which reveals the dog is actually a demon, a devil known as Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles proposes a deal. Surprise, surprise. The demon will become Faust's servant on Earth if Faust agrees to serve the devil in the afterlife. The despairing and pessimistic Faust agrees to the deal and signs the contract in blood. Faust, with the demon in tow, then continues his life pursuits, love, knowledge, and power. Faust is somewhat successful in these pursuits, but also experiences many failures due to a combination of his own bad decisions and the tampering of the devil Mephistopheles. Upon Faust's death, Mephistopheles raises demons to take his soul prize to hell, but a host of angels intervene and escorts Faust's soul to heaven. He's his own tongue twister there. There, Faust and the woman he loved on Earth, Margaret, both implore the Mother Mary for forgiveness, which she grants, and his soul remains in heaven. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I wanted to keep it super brief considering it's insanely long. This story in particular, probably the biggest influence on the whole devil deal concept and the tropes of it. Also, I wanted to point out, he suffered no real consequences for his devil deal. It's just like, oh, made a devil deal? Just pray to Mary and she'll bail you out. So from this, we get the terms Faust and Faustian bargain, which are now used to describe a person who trades something of supreme moral or spiritual significance, such as personal values or the soul, for some worldly or material benefit, such as knowledge, power, or riches.
Interesting.
And if the name Mephistopheles sounds somewhat familiar, or even like Mephisto, because he is a fictional figure that first appears in Ghost Play, but he's been adapted into various pop culture media. I know Marvel Comics in particular has a devil known as Mephisto, and he is actually responsible for Ghost Rider. So there you go.
I've never heard that name.
So in a roundabout way, the playwright Goethe was the creator of Ghost Rider.
And Stan Lee made a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Devil packs also play a huge part in witchcraft throughout history. People with supernatural powers were considered a fact of life within the folk beliefs of Europe, and often sought them out for advice or assistance. Although during the various witch trials of the 15th and 16th centuries in Europe, it was thought that those with supernatural powers only gained them by making a pact with Satan. Satan! Soon the concept also associated witchcraft with wild satanic parties in the woods, complete with naked witch women and cannibalistic infanticide.
So,
how do I sign myself up for one of these parties?
It sounds good at first, but then we end on cannibalistic infanticide. You're like, well, maybe not.
Hey, anything can taste like chicken if you cook it correctly.
All right. I guess.
The witch pact was very similar to the previous versions. The witch would swear loyalty, service, and immortal soul to the devil in exchange for magical powers and knowledge. Some pacts were sealed with the murder of a child or even sexual intercourse with a demon. I don't like that idea. The thought of sexual intercourse with a demon. God.
Oh, but the murder of a child is okay.
That was the joke.
You're like, I'm cool with the murdering the kid. Do I have to have sex with the demon?
I mean,
I have standards.
I have standards. I have to draw a line somewhere, Darren, okay? Remember, I have children. Evidence of this pact was said by witch hunters could be found in the form of a witch's mark, also called a devil's mark. This was a permanent mark made by the devil on his minions to seal their obedience to him. The devil would make this mark by scratching with his claws, branding with a hot iron, or even licking the individual. I think out of all those, I'd rather have him lick me.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's pleasant, but it's got to be better than the claws or hot iron, right?
But he's probably got a tongue 10 times more coarse than a cat. That's my luck. All right. Similar to the witch's mark was the witch's teat.
Here's the part you've been waiting for.
Sometimes the mark and the teat were different, but other times they were considered the same thing. The teat was a raised bump on the skin of the witch resembling a wart. This teat was used to nourish the demonic servant of the witch, an imp or familiar, and in exchange, the familiar would assist the witch in her diabolical deeds. This evil nipple was also said to be what the devil suckled on, as he came to bed with his servant and would sometimes even impregnate them with his seed, resulting in a half-demon baby known as a cambion.
And for a little Snipe Hunt trivia, we covered the cambion in our sleep paralysis episode. Because if you remember, Merlin was the cambion. Merlin the wizard, who is not a wizard. According to D&D rules, he is a sorcerer.
I'm going to be honest here. I don't remember that word at all.
Yeah, it's not like we made a big deal of it. But, when we were talking about the incubi and the succubi, basically a baby resulting from that union was a cambion.
Darn.
Well, there you go.
Well, if a cambion suckled on the unholy nipple daily, it would immediately grow to adulthood on the 7th day of the 7th week of feeding and wreak havoc on the world with its evil demon powers. In reality, it is thought that the witch's mark were actual natural skin blemishes like moles, skin tags, supernumerary nipples, and insensitive patches of skin. So that's where witches get the big old wart on their face and stuff.
That's part of it. I think that was more just to make it ugly. And the big wart and the whole green skin thing came from the Wicked Witch of the West and the Wizard of Oz. That wasn't really a trope until that. The whole witch look that we know today that literally solely came from the Wizard of Oz. So you mentioned supernumerary nipples, which are additional nipples that mammals can grow. They are non-functional and are commonly referred to as third nipples and are often mistaken as moles. So maybe you and I have a third nipple and we just no, that's a mole.
I always thought third nipples actually look like nipples though.
They all vary differently, but they don't look like a traditional nipple. Trust me, I went through Google Images.
Oh God.
Yeah, and not to be confused with an accessory breast in which a person can grow a third breast, which is actually a condition more prevalent in men. So when I was doing research for this episode, I was not expecting a whole paragraph to be devoted to nipples, but here we are. Okay, so let's move on from the nipples, I guess. Now, I've definitely found the research up to this point to be intriguing, but now we get to the stuff that I've been really looking forward to. The classic trope of musicians making a deal with the devil for musical talent. And that all starts with Robert Leroy Johnson, the master of blues. And then here I put in some bluesy, jazzy music. Robert was born in the May of 1927 in Hazelhurst, Mississippi, to Noah Johnson, a plantation worker, and Julia Dodds, who was married to another man, a sharecropper named Charles Dodds. The Dodds and the illegitimate child Robert moved to Memphis, Tennessee, where Robert grew up and learned the basics of playing guitar. Robert's mother, Julia, then took Robert with her new husband, Dusty Willis, to Arkansas, where they lived for a short time before moving back to the Mississippi Delta. Robert was more interested in playing music than he was working in the fields. I don't blame him. At 19 years old, Robert married a young lady named Virginia Travis, who unfortunately died a year later in childbirth, and the child stillborn. Soon after, Son House, one of the most talented bluesmen of his time, moved to Robert's town, and this is where Robert first heard him play. Son House remembered the young man saying,
"He blew a harmonica, and he was pretty good with that, but he wanted to play guitar."
It was from House that Robert learned. He would watch him play, and when they took a break, he would use one of their guitars. According to House, he was embarrassingly bad.
Such a racket you never heard. Get that guitar away from that boy,
people would say.
He's running people crazy with it.
Good job. Robert soon started traveling and playing gigs, improving all the while. He then traveled all over the South and visited Chicago, St. Louis, and Detroit. He then went down to San Antonio, Texas, and recorded several songs for the ARC record label. His fame never reached great heights in his lifetime, but his music was very influential to the other musicians who heard him play. Robert Johnson then died on August 16th in 1938 in Mississippi at the young age of 27. He was found dead on the side of the road. The cause of death was unknown.
Now, you remember how Son House spoke of a 19-year-old little Robert's guitar playing? After that embarrassing night, Robert disappeared from the Delta for a full year. Then one night, Son House and his friend Willie Brown were playing in a gig in Banks, Mississippi. Robert Johnson walks in with the guitar case on his back.
Where are you going with that thing?
House asked Johnson mockingly.
To noise somebody to death again?
Robert calmly removed his guitar from the case, and to House's and Brown's surprise, though it was a standard 6-string guitar, it was fitted with an extra 7th string. So it's like it came with the pick of destiny.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, 7-string guitars are a thing, but this was a 6-string guitar. Oh, sorry. But this was a 6-string guitar with a 7th string.
Ooh. So it probably looked funny.
Yeah.
Then little Robert stunned the seasoned musicians with skill like they had never seen. He played an insane series of rapid-fire chords that sounded almost like a piano being played by 3 hands. How had little Robert, a kid with no natural talent for guitar, become the best blues musician in Delta in a year?
In the Delta.
In the Delta?
Yeah.
In a year? The answer was clear. Robert had sold his soul to the devil.
Gasp.
Fellow blues musician Henry Goodman claimed to see the deal go down in a vision, and it goes something like this. Robert Johnson been playing down in Yazoo City and over at Beulah trying to get back up to Helena. Ride left him out of the road next to the levee. Walking up the highway, guitar in his hand, propped up on his shoulder. October cool night, full moon filling up the sky. Big trees all around, dark and lonesome road, a crazed, poison dog howling and moaning in a ditch alongside the road, sending electrified chills up and down Robert Johnson's spine. Coming up on a crossroads just south of Rosedale. Robert Johnson, feeling bad and lonesome, knows people up the highway in Gunnison. Can get a drink of whiskey and more up there. Man sitting off to the side of the road on a log at the crossroads says,
"You're late, Robert Johnson."
Robert Johnson drops to his knees and says,
"Maybe not."
The man stands up, tall, barrel-chested, and black as the forever closed eyes of Robert Johnson's stillborn baby, and walks out of the middle of the crossroads where Robert Johnson kneels. He says,
"Stand up, Robert Johnson. You want to throw that guitar over there in that ditch with that hairless dog and go back up to Robinsonville and play the harp with Willie Brown and Son, because you just another guitar player like all the rest. Or you want to play that guitar like nobody ever played it before. Make a sound nobody ever heard before. You want to be the king of the Delta Blues and have all the whiskey and women you want. That's a lot of whiskey and women, Devil Man. I know you, Robert Johnson,"
says the man. Robert Johnson feels the moonlight bearing down on his head and the back of his neck as the moon seems to be growing bigger and bigger and brighter. He feels it like the heat of the noonday sun bearing down, and the howling and moaning of the dog in the ditch penetrates his soul, coming up through his feet and the tips of his fingers through his legs and arms, settling in that big empty space beneath his breastbone, causing him to shake and shudder like a man with the palsy. Robert Johnson says.
That dog gone mad.
The man laughs.
That hound belonged to me. He ain't mad. He's got the blues. I got his soul in my hand.
The dog lets out a low, long, soulful moan, a howling like never heard before. Rhythmic, syncopated grunts, yelps, and barks, seizing Robert Johnson like a grand mal, and causing the strings on his guitar to vibrate, hum, and sing with a sound dark and blue, beautiful, soulful chords and notes possessing Robert Johnson, taking him over, spinning him around, losing him inside of his own self, wasting him, lifting him up into the sky. Robert Johnson looks over in the ditch and sees the eyes of the dogs reflecting the bright moonlight, or more likely so it seems to Robert Johnson, glowing on their own, a deep violet penetrating glow. And Robert Johnson knows and feels that he is staring into the eyes of a hellhound as his body shudders from head to toe. The man says,
The dog ain't for sale, Robert Johnson, but the sound can be yours. That's the sound of the Delta Blues. I've got to have that sound, Devil Man. That sound is mine. Where do I sign?
The man says,
You ain't got a pencil, Robert Johnson. Your word is good enough. All you got to do is keep walking north, but you better be prepared. There are consequences. Prepared for what, Devil Man? You know where you are, Robert Johnson. You're standing in the middle of the crossroads at midnight, that full moon right over your head. You are going to have the blues like never known to this world. My left hand will be forever wrapped around your soul, and your music will possess all who hear it. That's what's going to happen. That's what you better be prepared for. Your soul will belong to me. This is not just any crossroads. I put this X here for a reason, and I've been waiting on you.
Robert Johnson rolls his head around, his eyes upwards in their sockets to stare at the blinding light of the moon, which has now completely filled the pitch-black Delta night, piercing his right eye like a bolt of lightning as the midnight hour hits. He looks the big man squarely in the eyes and says, Step back, Devil Man. I'm going to Rosedale. I am the blues. The man moves to one side and says,
Go on, Robert Johnson. You're the king of the Delta Blues. Go on home to Rosedale, and when you get on up in town, you get you a plate of hot tamales, because you're going to be needing something on your stomach where you're headed.
So this is all like
Dun.
Tenacious D. I mean, this is the story.
This is the story. Yeah, exactly. Literally a shiny demon shining in the road, and it's the devil.
Yeah, but then they go back and they play that song that blows people's minds.
Yeah, in the same way. Yeah, the song that they've never heard, because the song they're talking about is just a tribute.
Yeah. Well, no, but I'm talking about the next song where like in the movie, I'm thinking of the Pick of Destiny.
Yeah,
they go back. They go into or in his mind, he's going. He meets the devil, then he goes to the club, and then he played. They played that one song.
Devil, he got the Pick of Destiny,
which was the Devil's Tooth. I mean,
yeah,
whatever.
No, I know what you're saying. But Tribute came out like years before the movie,
right?
But yeah, this is the story. So we're taking all the devil tropes we've had so far, and then applying it to music, and this is where almost cliche trope of a musician making a devil deal comes from. We're talking about the story. So, but yeah, that's pretty much where all that comes from. But my favorite part of the story is when the devil's like, "You get yourself a plate of hot tamales, Robert Johnson." Yeah. I'm sure he's like, "Well, don't mind if I do."
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, "Dang, this sounds pretty delicious, actually."
Right.
But this was all just rumors, of course, and Henry Goodman's vision may have just been a colorful tale born from his imagination. But to the God-fearing people of the Delta, Robert Johnson for sure sold his soul to play what was considered the devil's music.
The devil's music.
Which to me, is some of the best music on the planet.
No, it seriously is. I mean, so the newest version of the devil's music is metal, and, I'm in a metal band, so.
Right.
I am the devil's music.
Right.
So Johnson, despite these rumors, he didn't really try to stop them. In fact, he stoked the hellfire. He wrote songs which alluded to this alleged meeting, including Crossroad Blues, Me and the Devil Blues, and Hellhound on My Trail. However, singing about the devil was somewhat common among blues musicians at the time.
Although little known and underappreciated in his lifetime, Robert Johnson has become an inspiration for many within the world of music. Not only for those within his genre, but his music was an inspiration for many rock stars such as Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, Led Zeppelin, and many more.
I've heard of them.
Although, yeah, me too. Aren't people waiting for Keith Richards to die?
Probably.
Anyway, yeah. Although it wasn't until the 1960s that Johnson attained this fame when Columbia Records released the album King of the Delta Blues Singers, which featured his music. He was even inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the early influences category.
Yeah, so he played the blues like no other, but he didn't really gain any sort of real fame in his lifetime. It was more of a posthumous fame, and when you make a deal with the devil, there's always a catch, and maybe that was the catch with his deal. If he made one in the first place, it's like, you won't be famous while you're living, only until you're dead. But yeah, so that's the story of Robert Johnson. So let's go ahead and include some honorable mentions for famous deals with the devil that we didn't have time to analyze, and they include
Tommy Johnson, a blues musician who was active around the same time as Robert Johnson. And the two are sometimes confused for one another. I was about to say, wait, didn't we just talk about him?
Yeah, no. We talked about Robert Leroy
Johnson. Yeah.
You've seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, haven't you?
I have not.
What? Gary, it will change your life. It is one of the greatest movies ever made.
That's the one with the I am a man of constant sorrow.
Yes, that's the one. But in there, one of the characters is a musician named Tommy Johnson. Who told the main character that he sold it to the devil. So I think we have only like a couple of pictures of Robert Johnson. So he looks like Robert Johnson, but has the name Tommy Johnson. So I think it's more of a nod to both within the movie.
Gotcha.
So our next example is the monk who created the mysterious tome, the Codex Gigas. I wanted to mention it, but it will most likely be getting its own episode in the future, so I'm not going to go into detail.
Bernard Falk. Is it Falk?
You watch your mouth.
Folky.
I think it is Falk, though.
You kiss your mama with that mouth, boy. A 17th century Dutch captain who is thought to be the model for the phantom captain of the famous ghost ship, the Flying Dutchman.
Not to be confused with the SpongeBob character. And lastly, violinist Giuseppe Tartini and Niccolo.
Giuseppe?
Yes. Giuseppe Tartini and Niccolo Paganini. Two Italian violinists. We don't believe you're Italian. It's like, oh yeah, my name is Giuseppe Tartini. It's like, okay, we believe you, Jesus. You don't have to make up the most ridiculous name of all time. There were two Italian violinists who contributed the violin or fiddle trope to the legend, as was made famous in the song "The Devil Went Down in Georgia" by Charlie Daniels. And actually, I think Giuseppe, I can't remember which one has it, but they actually have a song called "The Devil's Trill," which was inspired by the artist meeting the devil in a dream, supposedly. Now, getting on to more modern times, many musical artists include selling the soul in their lyrics, either as a metaphor for the music industry or to feed their edgy image. For example, Kanye West said this at his concert to hype up the audience. I sold my soul to the devil. I know it was a crappy deal. At least it came with a few toys and a happy meal. Oh, classic Kanye. But many believe the musical elite all literally sell their souls to evil in exchange for wealth and fame.
It was a crappy deal. I'm convinced that Kanye probably is the devil. But anyways,
probably.
Especially author Rebecca Scott, who boasts such literary works such as
Hip Hop Illuminati.
Hip Hop Illuminati Book 2. Hip Hop's Role in the New World Order.
Lead Me Not Into Temptation. How Satan Gets Inside Your Head.
Satan's Emissary. The unauthorized biography of boxing promoter Don King.
Yeah, I bet it was unauthorized. The manipulation of America.
Biblical views on homosexuality. The hidden Illuminati agenda.
That's my favorite one. And finally, Satan's children. Celebrities who have sold their souls for fame. It's from this work, clearly a candidate for the Pulitzer Prize, which we will pull our excerpt. In this book, she claims that many celebrities are either clones or that they are in league with Satan and are trying to drag your kids down to hell with them. One section is focused solely on the pop artist Lady Gaga, and it reads,
Lady Goo Goo Gaga's theme promotes a mindless, infantile, slave-like persona who has anonymous, careless sex and is shallow, thinks trivial thoughts, is ruled by ego, and serves Satan.
Satan.
Gaga assists Satan by encouraging the masses to be entertained by stupidity. Her catchy music seduces people to subconsciously accept her marketing themes. Oh, and let's not forget Satan, okay? Lady Gaga worships Satan, and she wants you and your children to worship Satan, and to not be thoughtful, to not be spiritual, to not be powerful, fame monster, and bad romance indeed. She wants to sexualize your children. Her lyrics are quite sexual, and she markets herself to children. This is why she's able to get young girls and boys to sing about oral sex. Poke her face. Poke, poke, poke her face. The world is controlled by dark voices. By dark forces, not voices. Forces, by God. Just dance. It'll be okay.
So clearly she's an excellent writer who makes some excellent points. The author goes on to say,
Lady Gaga wants you to succumb to the New World Order and the Illuminati. She's very upfront about her allegiance to Satan, your adversary, which she blatantly shows in her fashions, videos, and photo. Just dance. It'll be okay, is how she hopes you'll respond.
Okay. So she's, she's sound of mind and body, and she's not schizophrenic, nor does she jump to conclusions. She presents a very valid argument and has the evidence to back it up. And she's definitely not stringing stuff like Satan and New World Order and Illuminati together like they all belong together. So she makes some valid points. Because I got the book on Kindle. Thank God it was free, because it's just painful to read, as you can see. I mean, she does make like one I agree with. Encourages the masses to be entertained by stupidity. Her catchy music seduces people to subconsciously accept her marketing things. Yeah, that's all that. But that's just big pop music anyway. It's not the artists that are like writing these songs. It's like, which ones are going to make us the most money?
I think what was probably sticking out her head most of the time was the meat dress.
Yeah, I don't like her music, but as far as her fashion goes, freaking awesome. It's so weird. I love it. That was from a completely valid source. Like we mentioned earlier, many artists will either jokingly refer to selling their souls in interviews or include them in lyrics. There are many instances in videos on YouTube, mostly consisting of interviews that seemed dubbed over or just clips of random songs.
This is one of my favorite things that Darren puts in here, because it makes me, I don't know why, but I just love adding stuff in, like sound effects and stuff. But there's one interview that stands out. Bob Dylan's 60 Minutes interview. Let's take a listen.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And this earth, and then in a world we can't see.
I wonder if he's high as hell.
Oh, he most definitely is. He definitely seems like it throughout the interview. Some people think when he says or refers to the chief commander, he's referring to God, while others think he is referring to Satan. He is famously a born-again Christian, so maybe it's God. He never really explicitly says. But this term is also in the lyrics of Dylan's song, The Tombstone Blues, which reads,
Well, John the Baptist, after torturing a thief, looks up at his hero, the commander-in-chief, saying, Tell me, great hero, but please make it brief. Is there a hole for me to get sick in? The commander-in-chief answers him while chasing a fly, saying, Death to all those who would whimper and cry. And dropping a barbell, he points to the sky, saying, The sun's not yellow, it's chicken.
So if you're
It
confused...
drives me nuts that don't rhyme.
Exactly. So if you're confused about what the hell the lyrics are saying, that's kind of the point. Bob Dylan has even said his songs are about nothing and mentions that they're just sort of magically written. So the lyrics most likely have no real meaning. But my favorite's like, the sun's not yellow, it's chicken. It's like, what? So I personally think, since he's famously Christian, and even from this lyrics, we get John the Baptist talking to the commander-in-chief. When he refers to making a deal in the interview, I think he made a deal with God rather than the Lord of Darkness. I just had to include that, because just like not so much what he says, but the way he says it, he almost seems like kind of regretful while he's saying it. But like you said, he's probably just high as hell.
So I'm thinking, I wonder if I should have read it like, well, John the I can't remember how Bob Dylan, didn't he sing like that? Like
I don't remember. It's been a hot minute.
After torturing a thief, looks up at his hero. Okay, never mind. All right. All right. So now I know what everyone was wondering, even myself. How do I sell my soul to the devil? Luckily, we have the steps you should follow if you'd like to exchange your immortal essence for radical guitar skills.
To be clear, this is tongue-in-cheek and doesn't reflect the views of Snipe Hunt, and we do not take responsibility, nor do we condone selling your soul to anyone or anything. So there are a variety of ways, but we'll list two different sources. One is the quote-unquote ancient way, as found in a grimoire called the Key of Solomon, and the other is a modern way, as found on a DeviantArt page. So, pretty similar sources for these. The Key of Solomon is a grimoire attributed to be written by the famous biblical figure, the wise King Solomon. Although there's no biblical basis for this, King Solomon is known among occult circles to have the ability to consort with and control demons, jinn, and other supernatural beings. During the time of the Renaissance, magicians would write grimoires and attribute them to the Israelite king. The Key of Solomon we're reading from is one of many works with that same name. Not really a real grimoire. It's just like some dude in the Renaissance is like, yeah, this is totally written by King Solomon. So here's what it says when it comes to making a demonic pact.
Exactly at dawn.
Please don't.
Why not?
Too much.
Oh. Exactly at dawn. Use a new knife to cut a fork-shaped wand from the twig of a wild nut tree that has never borne fruit. Take the wand, a magic bloodstone, and consecrated candles to the site of the ritual, preferably a ruined castle or deserter's house. A deserted house, not a deserter's house. Where one will be undisturbed and receive whatever treasures the demon produces. With the bloodstone, draw a triangle on the ground or floor and place the candles on the side of it. Stand in the middle of the triangle, hold the wand, and recite the required invocation. When the work is finished, recite another incantation to dismiss the demon.
Apparently people in 14th century Europe also had a Southern American accent.
Sorry.
Now for the modern method, we are taking these steps and tips from the DeviantArt page of Kilika Ursa Star.
Number 1, take a bath. This is done out of respect for the devil.
Yeah, you don't want to smell like BO when you're summoning the devil. That's just rude. Number 2, focus and set up your space with one or more black, blue, or red candles, as many as you'd like to commemorate your pact with Satan.
Number 3, light your candles.
Number 4, write your pact with any pen or quill. Explain exactly what you want, how it should be given to you, when you want it, and the reason you are asking for it from the devil. This is sounding awful sexual, but we'll ignore that for now.
Number 5, prick a finger with a pen and dip your pen in your blood.
Number 6, sign your pact in blood so that the devil may read it.
This, which means make it legible.
Yes. So don't use my handwriting because I can't even read my own handwriting.
Number 7, burn the pact. This is so your pact can reach Satan.
Yeah, he can't get it. He can't just like come in and pick it up. You have to burn it.
Well, these are also include some helpful tips.
Tip number 1, only make contact with Satan when you are alone. Satan isn't going to negotiate when you're surrounded by friends and family. You need to be alone in your room or in your home, preferably your bedroom. Don't beg. Don't sound needy or annoying. The devil only wants strong souls. Why would he pay for a weak soul? Be alone, be strong, be ready. Yeah, he doesn't want a clingy soul.
Right.
Like, please, Mr. Satan.
Number 2, don't sell your soul for less than it's worth. Okay? That's by far the biggest mistake people make, is to underestimate how badly Satan wants their soul. It's like precious gold to him, and he'll pay anything to get it, especially if you have a colorful soul, one that really strikes a chord with people. Let him make the first offer, but don't sell yourself short.
What the hell is a colorful soul?
Yeah.
And he'll pay anything to get it. So it's like, can I have like other people's souls in exchange for my soul?
$1 trillion.
You can have my soul for 20 souls. I think there's a comic about that that's actually pretty funny. Moving on to tip number 3, ask for everything you want. Remember, you're going to burn in hell forever. So no matter how badly off you are now, make sure you get everything you want. Think big. If you want a mansion, make it a mega mansion with your favorite food round the clock and people in the house catering your every need. Yeah, you get the best out of your deal, I guess.
Right. Number 4, priority housing in hell. You don't have to settle burning in hell forever like all the other sinners on the planet. No.
You idiot.
Yeah. You have made a deal. So you should get the equivalent of a first-class burning cabin in hell. Everyone is not treated the same in hell. The devil can make it a little more pleasant for you. Why not ask?
He's making some bold assumptions. Not everyone is treated equally in hell. It's like, well, how do you know?
Yeah.
And number 5, the 100-year life extension provision. Life hack. Most people don't know they can ask for a life extension before heading off to hell. The devil won't tell you about this, so you'll have to ask. And if you ask, he will grant it to you. You will get to live for another 100 years on earth before he takes your body. Why enjoy only 75 or 80 years of reckless living when you can get another 100 added on? Now that's a good deal. I like how it's presented like it's a Starbucks secret menu item. They won't tell you about it, so you just have to ask. But if you ask, they'll get it for you.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live another 100 years.
Yeah, sounds awful. Well, I mean, if you're making the best of it, I guess it's not that bad. But, probably wouldn't sell my soul anyway, so.
Now, what if you want to sell your soul, but you don't want to give it to the devil? What if you would rather give it to your fellow man? Well, luckily, today with the modern wonder of the internet, you can, or at least try, to auction your soul online to the highest bidder.
And that's exactly what Lori N tried to do in 2012 on the auctioning site eBay. It got up to a $2,000 bidding before it was taken down by moderators, aka party poopers. She described it as a slightly used soul and was offering the opportunity for someone to save her soul through religious conversion. Although the act itself is somewhat humorous, her reasons behind it are actually pretty sad. She became partially disabled after a bad car wreck, and she said she was doing this to try to connect with another soul. So, yeah. There are other instances of people trying to sell their soul online, but they're usually taken down by the site because selling it also requires a method of delivering the product. eBay actually has a very specific policy on the selling of souls that was instated all the way back in the year 2000, which says...
Is this true?
No, this is for real, yeah.
Is for real?
Yeah, they have to.
eBay does not allow the auctioning of human souls for the following reasons. If the soul does not exist, eBay could not allow the auctioning of the soul because there would be nothing to sell. However, if the soul does exist,
then in accordance with eBay's policy on human parts and remains, we would not allow the auctioning of human souls.
I want to read the policy on human parts and remains.
That's the BS that people never read. You know, when you put "I agree" to the terms of service.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I love people they're like, oh, Facebook's censoring me by taking down my content, or Twitter's censoring me. It's like, no, you're not. You agreed to this.
Yeah,
you literally signed a contract that said that they have the right to take down whatever you put up. They're not censoring you when you agreed to it.
And I'll be honest, on these auctioning sites, I've never searched body parts.
I mean, Gary, I know you did. Like, you can just come out and say it. Like,
well, I mean, like fake extensions or something, but
well, Gary, why are you getting so defensive for? But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's definitely a fun one to research. But yeah, we got to see a lot of the origins for the tropes. Not really anything that we didn't know already about the tropes. We just basically just got to see the origins of them. So what did you think about this episode?
I thought it was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun. I'm thinking that when we get done with this, I might try that ritual in my living room just to see if it works for research purposes.
Now, which one are you going to try? Are you going to try the Key of Solomon one or the Deviant Art one?
The Deviant Art one. Yeah,
because the other one doesn't really go into specifics. It says summon the demon, and when you're done, dismiss it. It's like, well, okay. Well, you have fun with that. I probably so if something happens to you, I guess I'll know.
Or if you come over and I'm in a multi-million-dollar mansion, then you'll be like, well, shoot, I wish I would have got in on that. And I'll be like, well, Darren.
Well, that way I would know it was real, and then I'd be like, well, I guess, or Gary's going to hell forever. Yeah. No, wait, you don't have to, Gary. Just remember, like, right when you're about to die, or even after you're dead, just be like, hey, Mary, can you bail me out?
Yeah,
because apparently she'll do it. So no consequences. Yay.
It would be like Job, and I'll lose everything.
Yeah, well, Job didn't really make a deal with the devil. It was just more like the devil made a bet with God to see if he can get Job to recant.
That is true.
Faith to God. But that good reference, though. I'm surprised you know that.
Yeah. But now, of course, it is that time of the episode where I tell you guys to please leave a rating on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever else lets you read a review. It's important to us, and we, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate it.
Yeah, but we're not begging. We know you guys only want strong souls, so we're definitely not begging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a microwave going off on Gary's head.
No, it's my water filter. Anyways, please follow us on social media. We'd love to hear from you guys. We're on Facebook and Twitter, as well as Instagram, Reddit, and YouTube.
Yeah, please don't, force us to make a deal with the devil to get more ratings on iTunes and Apple Podcasts and Facebook recommendations, but we would rather you guys do it.
Because I'll do it. I'll freaking do it.
Yeah, it doesn't take very long. So we're also on Patreon, as we said at the top of the episode, and you can get some super exclusive bonus content like blooper reel episodes and topic voting for as little as $1 a month. And don't forget about the exclusive stories for the $5 tier if you'd like to check that out and help the show in your gun.
Just for one time, don't go into that convenience store bathroom and buy that condom. Just do the Patreon.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, or as a lot of them like to say, for as little as the price of a coffee per month, you can help us out.
Oh, you say coffee. You're so politically correct, man.
Well, that's what I would spend it on. I know you would spend it on the gas station condom, but I would spend it on coffee.
You're right. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
And as usual, if you have a topic suggestion, question, comment, criticism, or if you have a story you'd like us to share on the Encounter series, please contact us on social media or email us at snipehuntpodcast@gmail.com. As Halloween comes up, this would be a perfect time to record or email us your story. So yeah, we'd really like to do another episode on that, but we need stories to do that. So send a story. It doesn't even have to be anything you consider supernatural, just anything that you can't really explain. So yeah, that's it. And I think we got through it after all the interruptions and beeps.
Yeah, it was
dogs
no worse than
food. Yeah, no worse
than usual.
But yeah, that's it. So Gary, until next time.
Yes, thank you all, and thank you, Darren.
Yeah, thank you, Gary, and thank you guys for listening.
See ya.
Additional music for this episode was provided by Lobo Loco, Audionautics, and Mike Sobel. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Mark 8:36. From clerics to musicians, it seems the act of soul selling is relatively common for those in all walks of life. Either metaphorically or literally, I cannot recommend it, as all who have done so have one thing in common. They regret it. So keep your soul. It's worth more than you might think. And steer clear of those crossroads in The Stranger with the Golden Fiddle, so that you don't lose anything to this frightening folklore.
Once again, we want to thank you for listening to Snipe Hunt. Your listening has been noted and will be reported to the proper authorities. All audio used was done so under the protection of fair use.
Logo design is by Ethan Rothfuss. The music you heard in this episode was composed by Mayu and Nature World 1986. We'll continue to search for the unexplained, and we'll hopefully see you on the next hunt.